This story depicts the consequences of organized crime involvement. It does not endorse or glorify criminal activity. All events are fictional. 3:47 in the morning. The numbers glow red on the nightstand, sharp as accusations in the darkness. Nikolai Petrov lies awake in a bedroom that costs $800 a month to rent, in a house that will never truly be his, in a town whose name he still struggles to remember after 10 years. The construction boots by the door are caked with yesterday's mud. His hands, calloused and honest now, rest on a chest that rises and falls with the practiced breathing of a man who has taught himself not to dream. But some nights, the past doesn't need dreams to find him. The coffee maker gurgles to life at 4:30, programmed years ago, to match the rhythm of legitimate work. Nikolai moves through his morning routine with the precision of a man who understands that normalcy is a performance requiring constant rehearsal. Toast, black coffee, the weather app on a phone that has never received a call from anyone who knew him before. Outside, suburban Illinois spreads itself beneath a sky turning the color of old bruises, and somewhere in this landscape of vinyl siding and chain-link fences, a man named Nikolai Volkov is supposed to have died. Nick Petrov, construction foreman, little league assistant coach, the guy 3 houses down who keeps his lawn trimmed and his past buried, pours coffee into a thermos that has never known the taste of expensive whiskey. The kitchen is small, clean, the kind of clean that comes from having very little to lose. On the refrigerator, held by a magnet shaped like a baseball glove, hangs a photograph. A young woman in a graduation cap, arms around a man whose eyes carry the weight of every choice that brought him to this moment. Maya, 21 years old, a degree in social work, a future built on the foundation of his carefully maintained lies. The surveillance camera feed loads on his phone, a habit he cannot break no matter how many years of safety accumulate. 4 angles, the street, the backyard, the driveway. Nothing moves except a neighbor's cat, orange and oblivious, crossing between properties like borders mean nothing. Nikolai watches for 3 minutes anyway, looking for shadows that remember his real name. The truck starts on the second try, diesel engine coughing in the pre-dawn cold. Route 47 stretches empty toward the construction site, past the diner where he eats lunch alone, past the gas station where he buys lottery tickets he never checks, past the bar he has entered exactly once in 10 years, and left after 7 minutes when someone asked him where he was from. Chicago, he had said, and the word had felt like loading a gun. The job site materializes from the darkness like something emerging from deep water. Commercial development, strip mall, the kind of building that will house a nail salon and a vape shop and a franchise sandwich place within 6 months. His crew arrives in stages, men whose names he knows and whose lives he does not ask about. They nod. He nods. The ritual of men who understand that some silences are more honest than conversation. By 7:30, the sun has committed to the day, and Nikolai is 40 feet up on steel framework, bolt gun in hand when his phone vibrates. Unknown number. He stares at it for 10 seconds, watching it buzz against his thigh like something alive and malicious. Every unknown number could be the call that ends the performance. Every vibration could be the past, patient and inevitable, coming due. He answers on the 7th ring. The voice is female, professional, familiar in a way that makes his stomach tighten. Sarah Torres, United States Marshal, the woman who, 10 years ago, handed him and his daughter new birth certificates and said, "Use these names like your lives depend on it, because they do." "We need to meet," she says, and in those 4 words, Nikolai hears the end of something. The diner sits on the edge of town, the kind of place where the coffee is always hot and always terrible, and the waitress knows everyone's order before they sit down. Nikolai arrives first, takes the corner booth, positions himself where he can see the door and the parking lot and the kitchen exit. Old habits are like scar tissue, permanent and ugly. Sarah Torres enters at 11:42, and she has aged. Not badly, but visibly. The years have sketched themselves around her eyes, and her hair, pulled back in the same efficient ponytail she wore a decade ago, shows more gray than brown. She carries a briefcase that looks expensive and an expression that does not. She slides into the booth without greeting, without ceremony, and places a manila folder on the table between them like divorce papers. Viktor Sokolov was released from federal prison 6 weeks ago, she says. The name lands in Nikolai's chest like a fist. He does not move, does not breathe. The diner continues around them, normal and oblivious, a waitress refilling coffee for a man who will never know that the person 3 booths over just heard his death sentence pronounced. Early release, Sarah continues, her voice low and controlled. Good behavior, cooperation with ongoing investigations. He served 10 years of a 25-year sentence, and now he is free. Nikolai's hands are flat on the table, pressing down as if to keep the earth from tilting. You said witness protection was permanent. It is, unless the threat changes. Sarah opens the folder. Inside are photographs, surveillance images, grainy and clinical. Viktor Sokolov, older now, thinner, standing outside what looks like a restaurant in Chicago. Viktor Sokolov getting into a black SUV. Viktor Sokolov shaking hands with men whose faces are pixelated because they are either dead or still useful to federal prosecutors. He has been asking questions, Sarah says. Careful questions, smart questions about former associates, about people who testified, about you. The coffee in Nikolai's cup has gone cold. He does not remember ordering it. Has he found me? We don't know, but we have to assume compromise is possible. Sarah's fingers tap the photographs, a nervous gesture he has never seen from her before. There is another problem, a bigger problem. She pulls out a second photograph, and Nikolai's world narrows to a single face. Young, maybe 30, dark hair. Eyes that carry the particular coldness that comes from growing up in a world where violence is currency. Alexei Sokolov, Sarah says. Viktor's son. While his father was in prison, Alexei rebuilt the organization. Smarter, more careful, more ruthless. And he has resources his father never had: money, technology, patience. Nikolai stares at the photograph of a man he has never met but understands completely. He wants revenge. He wants security. You testified against his father. You know where bodies are buried, literally. You know account numbers, safe houses, names of people who were never charged because we did not have enough evidence. As long as you are alive, you are a threat to everything Alexei has built. The logic is clean, simple. Nikolai has lived long enough in both worlds to recognize truth when it arrives without decoration. So what do I do? Sarah closes the folder. We can relocate you again. New name, new state, new life. And Maya. She is an adult now. She can choose to come with you or stay. Nikolai thinks about his daughter, 21 years old, engaged to a man named David Park, an architect who believes Nick Petrov is exactly who he claims to be. A college graduate with a degree aimed at helping people her father spent 15 years learning how to hurt. A young woman who, at 16, sat across from him at a kitchen table not unlike this one and asked, "Dad, who were you before we came here?" And he had told her, not everything, but enough. Enough that she understood why they moved every year until she was 11. Enough that she stopped asking questions about grandparents and cousins and the life before. I cannot ask her to run again, Nikolai says. Then you run alone. The words sit between them like a third person at the table. Nikolai looks out the window at the parking lot, at his truck with its cracked windshield and its radio that only plays AM stations, at the ordinary daylight of an ordinary Tuesday in an ordinary town, where ordinary men drink terrible coffee, and do not think about the mathematics of survival. How long do I have? Sarah hesitates, and in that hesitation, Nikolai hears the answer. We recommend immediate relocation, today if possible, this week at the latest. He almost laughs, almost. I have a job, a crew depending on me. My daughter is graduating this weekend. She is getting married in 3 months. Nikolai, Sarah's voice softens, the first time she has used his real name in 10 years. I understand what I am asking you to give up, but if Victor or his son finds you, there will not be a wedding. There will be a funeral. The waitress appears with a coffee pot, cheerful and intrusive, refilling cups that do not need refilling. She asks if they want anything else. Sarah says no thank you. Nikolai says nothing at all. The waitress leaves, and the silence returns, heavier now. I need to think, Nikolai says finally. You have until Friday. After that, if you refuse relocation, you are on your own. The Marshal's service cannot protect someone who will not be protected. Sarah stands, leaves $20 on the table for coffee that costs $3, and walks out of the diner without looking back. Through the window, Nikolai watches her get into a sedan with government plates and drive away, taking with her the last 10 years of safety. He sits alone in the booth for another 20 minutes, watching his coffee go from cold to room temperature, listening to the diner's ambient noise, the clatter of dishes, and the murmur of conversations about weather and sports and weekend plans. Normal people living normal lives. He had tried so hard to become one of them, had almost believed, some mornings, that he had succeeded. His phone vibrates. Maya's name appears on the screen, and for a moment he considers not answering. Considers driving to the construction site, finishing his shift, going home, packing a single bag, and disappearing into whatever new identity Sarah Torres manufactures for him. Considers the mathematics of survival, which has always been simpler when calculated alone. But he answers. Dad, I need you to come to the house tonight. David's parents are flying in for the graduation. They want to meet you properly. Her voice is bright, excited, carrying none of the weight pressing down on his chest. Can you be there at 7? And please, Dad, wear the nice shirt, the blue one, not the flannel. Nikolai closes his eyes. I will be there. Thank you. I love you. I love you too, sweetheart. The connection ends, and Nikolai is alone again with a decision that has already been made. He cannot run. Not from this. Not anymore. Whatever is coming, he will face it here, in this town that was supposed to be temporary and became the longest home he has known since childhood. The afternoon passes in a blur of manual labor and careful avoidance. His crew asks if everything is okay. He says yes. They do not believe him, but they do not press, and by 5:30, the site is secured and the men are dispersing to their separate lives, to homes where the past stays in the past because it was never particularly dangerous to begin with. Nikolai drives home through suburban streets that look identical in every direction, pulls into a driveway that needs repaving, enters a house that smells like the frozen pizza he cooked 3 days ago and forgot to finish. The blue shirt hangs in a closet that contains 6 shirts total, 3 pairs of jeans, 2 pairs of work pants, and a suit he wore once, to Maya's high school graduation, and will wear again to her wedding if he lives that long. He showers, shaves, looks at himself in a mirror that has reflected this same face for 42 years, but somehow never looks familiar. The scar above his left eyebrow, small and old, from a fight in a Chicago alley when he was 23 and stupid enough to think loyalty mattered more than survival. The lines around his eyes, earned through years of squinting at both construction plans and the middle distance, looking for threats that may or may not materialize. The gray in his hair, premature and spreading, as if his body is trying to catch up to a life that has already aged him beyond his years. He arrives at Maya's apartment at 6:53. She lives in a complex called Riverside Meadows, which is neither by a river nor surrounded by meadows, but the rent is reasonable and the neighbors are quiet. 3rd floor, Unit 312. A wreath on the door that says welcome in letters that look hand-painted. He knocks, and the door opens, and there she is. Maya has her mother's eyes, Alina's eyes, dark and clear and capable of seeing through any lie Nikolai has ever attempted. She smiles, stands on her toes to kiss his cheek, and pulls him inside to a living room that smells like something cooking and looks like a department store catalog. David Park rises from the couch, extending a hand, and Nikolai shakes it. Firm grip, direct eye contact. A good man as far as Nikolai can tell, which is not very far because Nikolai's expertise has always been in identifying bad men, and the good ones remain slightly mysterious to him. David is 26, an architect at a firm in the city, the kind of person who uses words like sustainable design and means them. He wears glasses that make him look studious and shirts that are always tucked in. Behind David, on a love seat that looks too small for the two people occupying it, sit David's parents, Robert and Linda Park, early 60s, dressed like they have come from somewhere important and are tolerating this detour. Robert's handshake is brief, professional, the grip of a man performing a required social function. Linda's smile does not reach her eyes. "Mr. Petrov, we have heard so much about you," Linda says, and the emphasis on Petrov is slight but unmistakable. "All good things, I hope," Nikolai replies, and the words feel wooden in his mouth. They sit. Maya brings wine, which Nikolai does not drink but accepts anyway. The conversation unfolds with the awkward rhythm of strangers trying to find common ground. Robert is a retired banker. Linda teaches piano. They live in Oak Park, which Nikolai knows is a nice suburb of Chicago, the kind of place where people lock their doors out of habit rather than necessity. They ask about Nikolai's work. He tells them about construction. They ask how long he has lived in this area. He says 10 years. They ask about Maya's childhood, and he navigates that minefield with practiced vagueness, talking about small towns and frequent moves and a life that sounds nomadic rather than hunted. David squeezes Maya's hand, proud and oblivious, and Nikolai watches his daughter smile at her fiancé with a happiness that feels both genuine and fragile, like something beautiful grown in contaminated soil. Dinner is chicken, roasted vegetables, a salad that tastes like the kind of effort people make when they are trying to impress. Maya has set the table with actual cloth napkins. She has put on music, something classical and inoffensive. She has created the stage for a normal family dinner, and everyone is playing their parts except for the weight in Nikolai's chest that grows heavier with every minute. "So, Mr. Petrov," Robert says, cutting his chicken with surgical precision, "Maya mentioned you are originally from Chicago." Nikolai nods. "Long time ago." "What part?" A simple question, an innocent question. The kind of question people ask at dinner parties and wedding receptions, and nowhere else does it feel like an interrogation. "Bridgeport area," Nikolai says, naming a neighborhood he lived in for 6 months when he was 19. "Bridgeport," Robert repeats, as if tasting the word. "That is a working-class neighborhood, is it not? Historically tied to the stockyards." "It is." "And you moved out here for work?" "For a fresh start." Linda sets down her fork, and the sound against the plate is sharper than it needs to be. "Mr. Petrov, I hope you will forgive my directness, but David is our only son, and Maya is a lovely young woman, and we want to ensure that this marriage begins on a foundation of honesty." Maya's smile freezes. "Mom, what are you doing?" Linda ignores her, eyes fixed on Nikolai. "We have heard some concerning things. Rumors, really, about your past, about why you moved here, about whether Nick Petrov is even your real name." The room goes silent except for the classical music, which suddenly feels absurd, a soundtrack to a conversation that has turned into something else entirely. Nikolai sets down his wine glass, careful not to let his hands shake, because hands that shake look guilty. "Who told you this?" he asks, voice level. "Does it matter?" Robert leans forward, and his earlier politeness has evaporated. "Is it true?" David stands abruptly. "Dad, this is completely inappropriate." "Sit down, David. This concerns you." Robert does not look away from Nikolai. "We did some research, Mr. Petrov, or should I say Mr. Volkov. We hired a private investigator. It was not difficult to find records, court documents, testimony transcripts. You were involved with organized crime in Chicago. You were an enforcer for Viktor Sokolov's organization. You testified against him in exchange for witness protection." Maya's face has gone pale. "You investigated my father." "We investigated the man our son wants to marry into." Linda's voice is cold now, all pretense of politeness abandoned. "A man with a criminal past. A man who changed his name. A man who has been lying to everyone, including his own daughter." "I have not lied to Maya," Nikolai says quietly. "She knows who I was, who I am now." "Do you?" Robert stands, and he is taller than Nikolai expected, larger, suddenly dominating the small dining room. "Because from where I am standing, you are a criminal who got lucky, who betrayed his associates to save his own skin, who is raising a daughter with blood money and pretending it is honest work." The words hit like blows, accurate and devastating, and Nikolai does not have a defense because there is no defense against the truth. He looks at Maya, who is crying now, silent tears running down her face while David holds her shoulders, and he sees in her eyes not anger but shame, the kind of shame children feel when their parents are exposed as frauds. "I think you should leave," David says, and his voice is shaking. Nikolai stands. The blue shirt suddenly feels ridiculous, a costume for a play that has ended prematurely. "Maya, I am sorry." "Just go, Dad." She will not look at him. "Please just go." He goes. The drive home is 15 minutes that feel like hours. The truck's headlights cut through darkness that seems deeper than it should be, and Nikolai's hands on the steering wheel are steady because steadiness is a skill he learned before he learned to read. He does not cry, has not cried since Alina's funeral, and even then, he had waited until Maya was asleep because crying in front of your daughter when you are supposed to be her source of strength is a luxury men like him cannot afford. At home, he sits in the driveway for 20 minutes, engine off, watching his breath fog in the cold air. The house is dark, empty, a rental property occupied by a ghost. His phone rings. Unknown number. He stares at it, and this time he knows. This time, there is no Sarah Torres coming to warn him. This time, it is the call he has been expecting for 10 years. He answers. The voice on the other end is smooth, accented, familiar from nightmares and testimony transcripts. "Hello, Nikolai. It has been a long time." "Viktor Sokolov." "How did you find me?" Nikolai asks, though he already knows. The private investigator, the research into his past, the digital trail that no one can ever truly erase, no matter how many names they change or miles they run. "Does it matter?" Victor's voice is older now, rougher, damaged perhaps by years of prison food and prison air. "I am calling to inform you of something. My son, Alexei, he is very angry with you. He wants to hurt you. He wants to hurt your daughter. He wants to destroy everything you have built in your sad little life." Nikolai's grip on the phone tightens. "If you touch Maya." "But I am old now, Nikolai, tired. I do not want more blood. I want to make a deal with you." "What kind of deal?" "Meet me tomorrow, alone. There is a place we both know. The warehouse on Archer Avenue where we used to handle business. Be there at midnight. Come alone and we will talk. Bring police, bring marshals, bring anyone, and my son will visit your daughter first. The line goes dead. Nikolai sits in his truck, in his driveway, in a life that is collapsing like a building with compromised foundation, and he makes the only decision available to him. He calls Sarah Tors. She answers on the first ring. Nikolai. I need help, Victor called. He wants to meet, tomorrow night, midnight, a warehouse in Chicago. Silence on the other end, and then Sarah's voice, tight and controlled. Absolutely not. This is a trap. You do not go. He threatened Maya. Then we put her in protective custody. We relocate both of you tonight. She will not come, not anymore. Her fiancé's family just exposed everything. She is ashamed of me. She will not run. Then you run without her. Nikolai looks at his house, at the dark windows and the cheap siding and the mailbox that says Petrov in letters that are starting to peel. I am done running, Sarah. I ran for 10 years and it did not save me. It just delayed this moment. If you go to that warehouse, you will die. Maybe, but if I do not go, Maya dies. And I did not spend 10 years becoming a better man just to let my daughter pay for my sins. He hangs up before Sarah can argue further. Inside the house, Nikolai moves with purpose now, the paralysis of indecision replaced by the clarity of commitment. He goes to the bedroom closet, pushes aside the blue shirt and the work clothes and the suit, and reaches to the back, to a box he has not opened in 10 years. Inside is a gun, a Glock 19, loaded. He had promised Sarah he would destroy it when they entered witness protection, and he had lied, because some habits are too deeply rooted to dig out. He checks the magazine. 15 rounds. He has not fired this weapon in a decade, but his hands remember the weight, the balance, the cold practicality of violence reduced to 9 millimeters of stopping power. Tomorrow night, he will go to Chicago. He will meet Viktor Sokolov in a warehouse that smells like his past. And whatever happens there, whatever price is demanded for the 10 years of borrowed peace, he will pay it. Because that is what fathers do. They pay debts their children did not incur. They stand between the past and the future. They make themselves the sacrifice so the innocent can remain innocent. Nikolai sets the gun on the nightstand and lies down on a bed that has never felt like home. Tomorrow, he will face the ghosts. Tonight, he allows himself to remember Elena, her dark eyes, her laugh, the way she had held Maya for the first time and said, "We made something good, Nick. Promise me you will keep her good." He had promised. And promises, Nikolai has learned, are the only things worth dying for. Outside, the suburb sleeps. Inside, a man named Nick Petrov waits for dawn. And somewhere in Chicago, in an office building or a mansion or a prison of his own making, Viktor Sokolov smiles, because revenge, like interest on a debt, compounds with time. The story is far from over, but for Nikolai, the running is done. What comes next will be reckoning. The hours between midnight and dawn have a particular quality, a thickness to the darkness that daylight never fully burns away. Nikolai sits at his kitchen table with the Glock disassembled before him, pieces laid out like surgery, each component a memory of the man he used to be. Slide, barrel, recoil spring. His hands move with muscle memory, older than his decade of reformation, cleaning oil and carbon residue from metal that has not fired a round since a night in Chicago when he was 32 and still believed loyalty was currency worth dying for. The gun goes back together in 47 seconds, loaded, safety on. He sets it beside the truck keys and looks at his phone, where Maya's name sits at the top of his recent calls like an accusation. 3 times since leaving her apartment, he has typed messages. 3 times he has deleted them before sending. What does a father say to a daughter whose shame he has earned? Sorry feels insufficient. I love you feels manipulative. The truth, which is I am going to Chicago tonight to face the past so you can have a future. Feels like the kind of thing you say in letters found after funerals. He sends nothing. At 5:43, the sun makes its first weak attempt at morning, and Nikolai showers for what might be the last time in this house that never became home. He dresses in clothes that will not stand out. Jeans, dark jacket, boots that can run if running becomes necessary. The blue shirt stays in the closet, a costume for a play that has closed. The drive to Chicago begins at 6:30. Route 47 to I-55, north through towns that blur together in the gray light, past exits he has never taken to lives he will never live. The truck's radio plays news about inflation and weather and a shooting on the south side, and Nikolai turns it off because other people's violence feels obscene when he is driving toward his own. By 9, the Chicago skyline rises from the prairie like broken teeth, and Nikolai's hands tighten on the steering wheel. He has not been back in 10 years. Sarah Torres had made it clear. Returning to Chicago was grounds for removal from witness protection. The city is a graveyard of his former life, every street corner a potential recognition, every face a possible ghost. But geography, like time, stops mattering when your daughter's life is the currency of negotiation. He parks 3 blocks from the warehouse on Archer Avenue, in a lot behind a closed auto body shop where the security cameras are either broken or unmonitored. The Glock sits heavy in the small of his back, hidden beneath the jacket, a secret his new life was never supposed to require. The warehouse looms ahead, brick and rust and broken windows, a monument to the city's industrial past and Nikolai's personal history. This is where Viktor Sokolov ran operations 15 years ago, where shipments arrived that customs never inspected, where men who asked too many questions received final answers, where Nikolai, young and stupid and believing power was the same as security, had learned that loyalty only flows upward and blood only flows down. He is early, 11:17, 43 minutes until midnight. He circles the building once, staying in shadows, watching for movement, for vehicles, for the shape of an ambush. The perimeter is quiet, too quiet. The silence feels worse than activity, and Nikolai's instincts, dormant for a decade, wake with a familiar unease. A car approaches. Black sedan, government plates. It parks 2 blocks away, and Nikolai watches a figure exit. Female, professional stride. She does not look toward the warehouse but enters a closed coffee shop across the street, disappearing from view. Federal surveillance, either protecting him or waiting to arrest whoever walks out alive. At 11:49, Nikolai enters through the side door, and the darkness inside is complete. His eyes adjust slowly, shapes emerging from black. Shipping containers, empty now, stacked like coffins. Overhead catwalks, rusted and dangerous. The smell of old oil and older crimes. His footsteps echo, and he does not try to silence them because stealth is pointless when walking into a meeting you know is designed to end you. Nikolai Volkov. The voice comes from above, from the catwalks, and Nikolai's hand moves to the gun but does not draw because drawing means commitment, and commitment means no return. I prefer Petrov now, he says to the darkness. A figure appears at the catwalk railing, backlit by a window that catches ambient city light. Not Viktor. Too young, too straight in posture. This is Alexei Sokolov, and even from 30 feet below, Nikolai can see the resemblance. Same sharp features, same cold assessment in the eyes, same belief that power makes right. My father could not make it tonight, Alexei says, descending the metal stairs with deliberate slowness. Each footstep rings like a countdown. He is dying. Cancer. 6 months, the doctors say, maybe less. I am sorry to hear that, Nikolai says, and means it, because whatever Viktor was, he was also a man Nikolai once called boss and believed in before belief became betrayal. Are you? Alexei reaches the ground floor. He is smaller than Nikolai expected, maybe 5'10", lean in the way men are when they work out with purpose. He wears a suit that costs more than Nikolai's truck. Sorry enough to have destroyed him, to have sent him to prison where he contracted the disease that is killing him. I testified because he ordered my wife killed. She was a liability. She knew too much. Alexei's voice carries no emotion, just cold arithmetic. My father made a business decision. You made it personal. She was my wife. It was personal. They stand 20 feet apart, and Nikolai can see it now, the calculation in Alexei's eyes, the same calculation Nikolai himself has made 1,000 times. Fight or flight. Survive or surrender. Alexei reaches into his jacket slowly, giving Nikolai time to see it coming, and pulls out a phone. I want to show you something, he says. The screen lights his face from below, making him look younger, almost boyish. He turns the phone toward Nikolai. On the screen is a photograph. Maya, standing outside her apartment building. Taken today, maybe hours ago, the timestamp visible in the corner. Nikolai's world narrows to that image. If you touch her. I have not touched her, yet, but I could, any time I want. Alexei swipes and another photo appears. Maya at a coffee shop. Another swipe. Maya getting into David's car. Another. Maya at the university, laughing with friends who do not know her father is standing in a warehouse negotiating for her life. What do you want? Nikolai asks. I want you to disappear, really disappear. Not witness protection disappear. I want you dead and buried where no one will ever find you. No testimony, no loose ends, no threat to my organization. And if I refuse? Then I start with your daughter, then her fiancé, then his parents. Alexei's smile is cold, practiced. You took 10 years from my father. I will take everything from you in 10 days. 1 person per day, slow enough that you understand the mathematics of revenge. The math is simple, brutal, effective. Nikolai's hand moves toward his gun, but before he can draw, lights flood the warehouse. Blinding, disorienting. A voice cuts through the brightness, amplified and commanding. Federal agents, nobody move. Figures emerge from shadows that should have been empty. 4, 5, 6 of them, weapons drawn, professional and coordinated. Alexei spins, reaching for his own weapon, but freezes when a red laser dot appears on his chest. Hands where we can see them, Mr. Sokolov. A woman steps into the light, and Nikolai recognizes her even though they have never met. Federal prosecutor. He has seen her face in newspapers, on television, in the background of trials he followed from his exile. Mid-30s, professional, carrying herself with the particular confidence of someone who has won more cases than she has lost. Isabella Chen, federal prosecutor, Eastern District of Illinois. She holds up a badge. Mr. Sokolov, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, witness intimidation, and about 15 other charges we will discuss downtown. Alexei's eyes flick to Nikolai. You brought cops. I came alone, Nikolai says, and it is true. He did not call federal agents, did not contact anyone except Sarah Torres, who apparently made other arrangements. He did, Isabella confirms. But I have been tracking you, Mr. Sokolov, for 6 months, following your money, your associates, your very impressive reconstruction of your father's organization. When we learned you were targeting a protected witness, we saw an opportunity. 2 agents move in, cuffing Alexei with practiced efficiency. He does not resist, but his eyes stay locked on Nikolai with something that might be recognition or might be contempt. Does it get easier? He asks quietly. Living with what you did. No, Nikolai says honestly. It gets different, not easier. They take Alexei away, and suddenly the warehouse feels larger, emptier. Isabella remains, and she and Nikolai stand in the bright temporary lights that make everything look like a crime scene, which technically it is. How long have you been watching me? Nikolai asks. 6 months, since we learned Alexei was rebuilding his father's network. She does not apologize, does not offer excuses. When Victor was released, we knew Alexei would make a move. We needed leverage. You were the leverage. You let my daughter be threatened. We let you believe your daughter was threatened. She was never in real danger. We had protective surveillance on her 24/7. If Alexei had made an actual move, we would have intervened immediately. The anger rises in Nikolai's chest. You gambled with her life. I gambled with your fear. There is a difference. Isabella's voice is sharp now, defensive. And I won. Alexei Sokolov is in custody. His organization will collapse within the week. Your daughter is safe. You are safe. That was the goal. And what if your gamble had failed? Then we would have arrested him for attempted murder and built our case without his cooperation. She meets his eyes directly. I am not going to apologize for doing my job, Mr. Petrov. Or should I say Mr. Volkov? I know who you are. I know what you were. My uncle was James Chen. The informant Viktor Sokolov had executed 15 years ago. Your wife witnessed it. You testified about it. The name lands like a blow. James Chen. Nikolai remembers him. Young, scared, caught between loyalty to the organization and fear of what the organization was becoming. He had tried to leave. Victor had made an example of him. Elena had seen it happen, had come home shaking, had told Nikolai everything, and 3 days later she was dead too. I am sorry about your uncle, Nikolai says. Sorry does not bring him back, but your testimony put Victor away for 10 years. That is something. Isabella's expression shifts, becomes something almost human. I became a prosecutor because of what happened to him. I wanted to believe the system could work, that justice was possible. You helped me believe that. And now you are using that system to manipulate people. I am using that system to end criminal organizations. If manipulation is required, then that is the cost. She hands Nikolai a business card. You should go home, back to your life. Your daughter needs you. My daughter is ashamed of me. Then prove her shame is wrong, be the man you have been trying to be for 10 years, be the father she deserves. Isabella turns to leave, then stops. One more thing. Viktor Sokolov really is dying. Cancer. Advanced. He has maybe 4 months. He wanted me to tell you something. He said, tell Nikolai I understand why he did it. Tell him I would have done the same to protect Alexei. Tell him we are even. She leaves, and Nikolai is alone in the warehouse with federal agents packing up equipment, dismantling the trap that saved his life without his knowledge or consent. He looks at the business card in his hand. Isabella Chen, federal prosecutor, a phone number, an email address, a lifeline he did not ask for but might need. Outside, Chicago is alive with sirens and streetlights and the endless motion of a city that never truly sleeps. Nikolai walks to his truck, and his phone vibrates. Sarah Torres. Are you alive? She asks. Barely. You knew about this, about Isabella Chen's plan. I recommended you, told her you were reliable, that you could be trusted in a high-pressure situation. Sarah's voice carries a hint of apology. I am sorry we could not tell you. The operation required you to be genuinely afraid, genuinely committed. If you had known it was a setup, Alexei would have sensed it. You used me. We protected you. There is a difference. The same words Isabella said. Go home, Nikolai. The threat is over. Victor is dying. Alexei is in custody. You are free. Free. The word feels strange, unfamiliar. Nikolai ends the call and sits in his truck, engine off, watching the city he used to know become a place he no longer recognizes. For the first time in 10 years, he allows himself to imagine a future without looking over his shoulder. The drive south begins at 2 in the morning. Empty highway, dark sky. The truck's headlights cutting through nothing but possibility. Somewhere around Joliet, Nikolai pulls over at a rest stop, walks to the edge of a retention pond, and throws the Glock into dark water where it sinks without ceremony. Some things do not deserve to be carried into the future. By 4:30, he is back in his driveway. The house looks exactly as he left it. Small, plain, safe. He does not go inside. Instead, he sits on the front step and watches the sky shift from black to gray to the weak blue of early morning. Neighbors leave for work. A school bus rumbles past. A dog barks. Normal life continuing its normal rhythm, and for the first time, Nikolai feels like he might be allowed to join it. His phone rings. Maya. He answers, and there is silence on the other end, the kind of silence that carries weight. "Dad," her voice is small, uncertain. "I am here. David's parents told us everything, about who you were, what you did, the witness protection, all of it." She is crying, he can hear it in the spaces between words. "I told David I knew, that you had told me years ago, that I was not hiding anything from him." How did he react? He was angry at me, at you, at the situation. His parents want him to call off the wedding. A pause, fragile and afraid. "Dad, I am so scared. What if he leaves? What if his family makes him choose between them and me?" Then he chooses, and you learn who he really is. Nikolai's voice is steady, certain. "If he loves you, he will stay. If he does not, you deserve better." "I do not want to lose him." "I know, sweetheart, but you cannot build a marriage on secrets and fear. You can only build it on honesty, even when honesty is ugly." Maya's breathing steadies. "Will you come over, tonight? David wants to talk to you. His parents will not be there, just us. He has questions." "I will be there." "Thank you," she pauses. "Dad, I am not ashamed of you. I am ashamed that I was ashamed. Does that make sense?" "It makes perfect sense." "I love you." "I love you too." The call ends, and Nikolai sits on his front step watching suburban Illinois wake up. Something in his chest loosens. Not forgiveness, not redemption. Just the possibility that maybe, after 10 years of running and hiding and performing normalcy, he might actually be allowed to live it. At 7, he goes inside, showers, makes coffee, and looks at the calendar on his refrigerator where Maya has written in careful handwriting. Wedding, 87 days. 87 days to prove that he is more than his past. 87 days to show David Park that a man can change. 87 days to become the father Maya has been pretending he already is. That evening, Nikolai drives to Maya's apartment. The wreath still says welcome. He knocks, and David answers. They stand in the doorway, two men connected by a woman they both love, separated by history neither chose, but both must navigate. "Mr. Petrov," David says, "thank you for coming. Thank you for giving me the chance." They sit in the living room. Maya makes tea that no one drinks. The conversation unfolds slowly, carefully, like diffusing a bomb. David asks questions. Nikolai answers honestly. "What did you do for Viktor Sokolov? I enforced debts, intimidated people, hurt people who refused to pay. Did you kill anyone? No. But I stood by while others did, and that makes me complicit. Why did you testify? Because Viktor killed my wife and I wanted him to pay. Because I wanted Maya to have a future that was not built on violence." The questions continue for 2 hours. Nikolai does not flinch, does not make excuses, does not try to soften the edges of who he was. David listens. Maya listens. And somewhere in the careful space between question and answer, understanding begins. "My parents want me to leave Maya," David says finally. "They say I am marrying into a criminal family, that your past will always follow us." "They are right," Nikolai says. "My past will follow me until I die. It will follow Maya too. And it will follow you if you marry her. That is the truth, and you deserve to know it before you make your choice." But the past does not have to define the future. I am not the man I was 15 years ago. I am trying every day to be better, not perfect, just better. And Maya, she is everything good that came from a life that was mostly bad. She is proof that people can grow beyond their circumstances. If you love her, really love her, then you will see that. If you cannot, then walk away now because she deserves someone who sees who she is, not who her father was. The silence that follows is long and impossible to predict. David looks at Maya, and Maya looks back, and something passes between them that Nikolai cannot read but recognizes as the kind of communication that happens when two people understand each other beyond words. I am not leaving, David says finally. I love Maya. I am angry about the secrets, and I am scared of what this means for our future, but I am not leaving. Maya starts crying, and David holds her, and Nikolai stands to leave because this moment belongs to them. He is halfway to the door when Maya calls out. Dad, wait. He turns. She crosses the room and hugs him, fierce and tight. Thank you for being honest, for not lying anymore. Honesty is all I have left to give you. It is enough. Nikolai drives home through darkness that feels different now. Softer, less threatening. The house waits, and for the first time, it does not feel like a prison or a hiding place. It feels like what it has always been trying to be. Home. He makes dinner, watches television, goes to bed at a reasonable hour like a man whose life is measured in normal days instead of crisis management. The future is uncertain. Victor is dying somewhere in Chicago. Alexei is in federal custody, starting his own journey through consequences. Isabella Chen is building cases against the remains of an organization that once controlled city blocks. And Nikolai is learning what it means to be ordinary. Some nights are easier than others. Some mornings, he still wakes at 3:47 and reaches for a phone to check cameras. But slowly, incrementally, the grip of the past loosens. 87 days until Maya's wedding. 87 days to prove that redemption is not a destination, but a direction. 87 days to become the man his daughter believes he can be. And for the first time in 10 years, Nikolai believes it too. The reckoning has passed. What comes next is living. 87 days becomes 86, becomes 70, becomes a number small enough to count on two hands. Spring arrives in suburban Illinois the way it always does, uncertain and apologetic. Snow giving way to mud, giving way to the tentative green of grass that has survived another winter. Nikolai watches the seasons change from the window of his rental house, and for the first time in 10 years, he allows himself to believe in continuity. That tomorrow will come. That next month will arrive. That Maya's wedding will happen, and he will be there to see it. The construction job continues. Steel and concrete, and the reliable rhythm of manual labor that asks nothing of him except his hands and his time. His crew has stopped asking if everything is okay because everything appears to be okay, and men who work with their bodies learn not to question the small mercies of normalcy. At lunch, he eats sandwiches and listens to conversations about fishing and football and the rising cost of everything, and he contributes nothing but presence, which seems to be enough. Sarah tours calls once a week, checking in with the professional concern of someone whose job is keeping people alive. Viktor Sokolov is in hospice now. Alexei Sokolov is in a secure facility awaiting trial, cooperating fully, providing information that is dismantling what remains of his father's organization. The threat level has been downgraded from critical to minimal. Nikolai can stop checking the cameras every morning, can stop sleeping with his phone within arm's reach, can stop calculating exit routes from every room he enters. He tries. The habits are stubborn. Maya visits on Sundays, and the visits have taken on a new quality since the night David chose to stay. She brings David, and the three of them sit in Nikolai's small living room drinking coffee that Nikolai has learned to make better, talking about wedding plans and work and the careful reconstruction of trust. But there is something else now, too. A careful distance that was not there before. Maya choosing her words. David watching Nikolai like he is trying to solve an equation that refuses to balance. 6 weeks before the wedding, the first complication arrives. Maya calls on a Tuesday evening, and Nikolai can hear the stress in her voice before she speaks. Dad, we have a problem. The venue double-booked. They are claiming there was a computer error, but they are giving our date to another couple. We either move the wedding to a different date or find a new venue in 6 weeks. What does David want to do? He wants to postpone. His parents think we should take it as a sign that we are rushing into this. Her voice cracks slightly. Dad, I think they are still hoping he will call it off. Nikolai stands in his kitchen, phone pressed to his ear, and makes a decision that 10 years ago would have been impossible. What if I help? I know someone who owns an event space. From before, he might owe me a favor. The silence on the other end is long enough that Nikolai wonders if the connection dropped. Dad, I cannot ask you to contact people from your old life. You did not ask, I offered, and it is not my old life reaching out, it is a father helping his daughter. He pauses. Sometimes the past is not just weight, sometimes it is leverage. The man's name is Dmitry Volkov. No relation, despite the shared surname. He owned a restaurant in Chicago where Victor's organization used to meet, back when restaurants were fronts and meetings were negotiations. Nikolai has not spoken to him in 10 years, but the number is still in his memory, etched there by years of calling it for reservations that were never about food. The phone rings 4 times before a voice answers. Older, rough from cigarettes and decades of breathing Chicago winters. Yeah. Dmitry, it is Nikolai Volkov. The silence that follows is absolute. Then quietly, Nick, Jesus Christ, I thought you were dead. Close enough, I need a favor. You got some balls calling me after what you did. Victor is dying because of you. Alexei is in federal lockup. Half the guys we knew are either in prison or witness protection themselves because you testified. I know, and I am not asking you to forgive that. I am asking you to help my daughter. She is getting married. Her venue fell through. I remember you bought that old ballroom on Lake Street. I thought maybe. Dmitry laughs, but there is no humor in it. You want me to host your daughter's wedding, after you destroyed the organization, after you put my boss in prison. Yes. More silence. Then why should I? Because you have a daughter too. Anna. She would be, 25 now? And if she needed something, you would do whatever it took to give it to her, even if it meant swallowing your pride and asking someone you hate. The line goes quiet for so long Nikolai thinks Dmitry has hung up. Then, Saturday, May 17th, 6 o'clock, I will have the ballroom ready. Tell your daughter it is a wedding gift. She does not need to know from who. Dmitry. Do not thank me, Nick. This does not make us even. This does not make what you did okay. But Anna is getting married next year, and I hope to God if she ever needs help, someone will give it to her, even if I do not deserve it. The call ends, and Nikolai sits in his kitchen with the weight of grace he did not earn, given by a man who has every right to refuse. He calls Maya back. The ballroom on Lake Street is yours, May 17th, 6 o'clock, no charge. Dad, who did you call? Someone from before. It is handled. You do not need to worry about it. Are you sure it is safe, contacting people from that world? It is safe. And Maya, sometimes the past is not just something we run from. Sometimes it is something we make peace with. 4 weeks before the wedding, the second complication arrives in the form of David's mother appearing at Nikolai's construction site. He is on the 3rd floor of the steel framework when someone calls up that he has a visitor. He descends to find Linda Park standing in the dirt lot, looking profoundly uncomfortable in designer shoes and a coat too nice for a construction site. Mrs. Park. Mr. Volkov, I think we are past the point of pretending your name is Petrov. She does not offer to shake hands. I need to speak with you, privately. They walk to the trailer that serves as the site office. Nikolai makes coffee she does not drink. They sit across from each other in a space that smells like sawdust and old coffee, and Linda Park looks at him with the expression of someone about to deliver bad news. My husband and I have decided to give David an ultimatum, she says. Either he postpones the wedding for 1 year, giving everyone time to process this situation properly, or we will not be attending. We will not be giving our blessing, and we will not be providing the financial support we promised. Nikolai absorbs this calmly. And you came to tell me this why? Because I want you to convince Maya to agree to the postponement. She listens to you. If you tell her it is the right thing to do, she will accept it. Why would I do that? Because you love your daughter, and you must see that this wedding is happening under duress. David is confused. He is making decisions based on guilt and obligation, not love. If we give it time, he will realize he is making a mistake. Nikolai looks at this woman who has decided her son's happiness requires the absence of Nikolai's daughter, and he feels something he has not felt in 10 years. Not anger, not resentment, pity. Mrs. Park, I spent 15 years in a world where I controlled people through fear and money and threats. I was very good at it, and it made me miserable. It made me into someone my wife could not recognize, someone my daughter is still learning to forgive. He leans forward. You are trying to control your son the same way I used to control people, and it will not work. It never works. All it does is push them away. I am protecting my son. You are protecting yourself from embarrassment, from having to explain to your friends that your son married the daughter of a criminal. But David is 26 years old. He gets to make his own choices, even choices you think are mistakes. Linda stands abruptly. If you will not help me, then I will do what I have to do. And so will I will walk my daughter down the aisle on May 17th, and I will watch her marry your son, and I will not let your fear of my past ruin her future. She leaves without another word, and Nikolai sits in the construction trailer feeling like he has just fought a battle with weapons he spent 10 years learning to put down. 3 weeks before the wedding, Viktor Sokolov dies. Isabella Chen calls to tell him. This morning, hospice, he went quietly. His last words were about Alexei. He asked the nurse to tell his son that he loved him. Nikolai receives this information standing in his driveway, phone pressed to his ear, watching a neighbor wash a car with the kind of focus that suggests it is the most important task in the world. Did Alexei know? We allowed a phone call 2 days ago, supervised. Viktor told him he was proud of him for cooperating with prosecutors. That testifying was the right thing to do, that Alexei was braver than he ever was. The irony is not lost on Nikolai. Viktor, dying, giving his son permission to do exactly what Nikolai did 10 years ago. How did Alexei react? He cried, then he asked to speak with you. The request sits between them like something dangerous. When? This weekend, if you are willing, supervised, recorded, but he says he has questions only you can answer. Nikolai agrees because he understands what Alexei is looking for. Not forgiveness, not justification, but a road map for the territory between who you were and who you are trying to become. The meeting happens at a federal facility 40 miles from Nikolai's home, in a room designed for conversations between people who are not allowed to trust each other. Gray walls, metal table, camera in the corner, a federal agent by the door. Alexei sits on one side wearing an orange jumpsuit that makes him look younger, diminished. They sit across from each other, and Nikolai sees it immediately. The change, not in Alexei's face but in his eyes. The coldness is still there, but underneath it, something has cracked. My father died believing I made the right choice, Alexei says without preamble. Testifying, cooperating, betraying everyone we worked with. He said I was brave. You are. I am a coward, just like you were a coward. No, cowards run away. We ran toward something harder than what we left. Nikolai's voice is steady. Your father understood that at the end. Took him 10 years and a death sentence, but he understood. How do you live with it? Knowing that men who trusted you are in prison because of what you told prosecutors. I do not live with it, I carry it every day. But I also carry my daughter, my granddaughter. The word slips out before Nikolai can stop it, and he realizes he has not told anyone yet. Maya called yesterday with the news, 3 months pregnant, due in December. Alexei's expression shifts. You are going to be a grandfather. Yes. Does that make it worth it? All the betrayal, all the guilt. It does not erase the cost, but it gives me a reason to keep paying it. Nikolai leans forward. You asked me once how I did it, how I stopped being who I was. The answer is I did not stop. I just started building something bigger than what I destroyed. You will do the same. Not today, not this year, but eventually. I have nothing to build. No family, no daughter, no future. Then you build anyway. You find people who need help and you help them. You make yourself useful in ways that do not require power. It will feel like weakness at first, but weakness is temporary. Being weak is giving up. The meeting lasts another hour. They talk about witness protection, about starting over, about the small daily choices that accumulate into transformation. When it ends, Alexei stands, and for a moment, he looks like he wants to say something more. Then the federal agent steps forward, and the moment passes. As Nikolai leaves the facility, his phone rings. Maya. Dad, I need to tell you something. I was going to wait until after the wedding, but I cannot keep it in. Her voice is bright, nervous, excited. I am pregnant. David and I are having a baby. You are going to be a grandfather. Nikolai sits in his truck in the parking lot of a federal facility where he just counseled a criminal on how to become better, and he cries for the second time in 10 years. Tears of gratitude and fear and overwhelming love for a grandchild he has not met, who will carry his blood but none of his sins. Dad, are you there? Are you okay? I am more than okay. I am. Maya, this is the best news I have ever received. I was worried you would think we are rushing things, with the wedding and now a baby. I think you are building a life, and life does not wait for perfect timing. When are you due? December, early December. We will be a family of 3 by Christmas. Family, the word feels like absolution. 2 weeks before the wedding, Maya has a breakdown. David calls at 6 in the morning. She is having a panic attack. She is saying she cannot do this. She is talking about calling it off. Nikolai drives to their apartment still wearing yesterday's clothes, and he finds Maya on the bathroom floor, hyperventilating, surrounded by wedding details that have become evidence of a mistake. David hovers nearby, useless with concern, and Nikolai sits on the floor beside his daughter. Talk to me, he says. What if this is wrong? What if David's family is right and he should not marry me? What if I am ruining his life? The words come out between gasps. What if our baby grows up ashamed of us the way I was ashamed of you? The last sentence hits Nikolai like a fist, but he does not flinch. Then it is wrong and you call it off. But you do not make that decision while you are sitting on a bathroom floor at 6 in the morning. You make it when you can breathe, when you can think. I am so scared, Dad. Of what? Of being happy, of having something good, of building a life that is not waiting for the past to destroy everything. She looks at him with her mother's eyes. How do you do it? How do you let yourself believe things will be okay? I do not believe things will be okay. I hope they will be. There is a difference. Nikolai takes her hand. Belief is certainty. Hope is choice. Every morning I choose to hope that today will not be the day it all falls apart. Some mornings that is easier than others, but I keep choosing. What if I'm not strong enough? You are stronger than me. You have always been stronger than me. You are carrying my granddaughter. If you can do that, you can do anything. She cries for another 20 minutes, and slowly the panic subsides into exhaustion. By 8, she is calm. By 9, she is laughing about how ridiculous it is to have a breakdown 2 weeks before your wedding. By 10, she is back to planning. But Nikolai sees it now, the fear underneath, the terror that happiness is temporary and tragedy is patient. He recognizes it because he feels it too. The wedding happens on a Saturday in May when the weather is perfect in that impossible way where every element cooperates. Small ceremony, 50 people. The ballroom on Lake Street that Dmitry Volkov prepared and will not accept payment for. Nikolai wears the suit he bought 10 years ago. It still fits. Barely. He stands in a side room with Maya, and she is beautiful in ways that transcend the dress or the makeup or the flowers. She is beautiful because she survived childhood with a father who was more absence than presence, survived witness protection and constant moves, and the knowledge that her safety was conditional. She survived, and she became someone kind. And now she is about to become a mother. Ready, he asks. Terrified. Good, that means it matters. The music starts. They walk toward the aisle, and Nikolai feels the weight of every eye on them. David's parents in the front row, faces carefully neutral. Friends from Maya's college. Colleagues from David's firm. Sarah Torres in the back. Isabella Chen beside her, present because Maya invited her, because Maya believes in complicated gratitude. And there, in the third row, sitting alone, is Dmitry Volkov. He meets Nikolai's eyes for one brief moment and nods once. Acknowledgement. Not forgiveness, but recognition that some debts get paid in unexpected ways. The aisle is not long, maybe 50 feet, but Nikolai feels every step as negotiation between past and future. Every face they pass is a witness to this moment, this declaration that Maya Petrov, daughter of Nikolai Volkov, is worthy of love and celebration and a future that does not include her father's mistakes. David waits at the altar, and his face when he sees Maya is the face of a man who has made his choice and is certain of it. Nikolai reaches the end of the aisle, and the officiant asks who gives this woman to be married. I do, Nikolai says, and his voice does not shake. He kisses Maya's cheek, shakes David's hand, and steps back to take his seat in the front row beside an empty chair where Elena should be. The ceremony is traditional, short, efficient. Vows are exchanged. Rings are given. The officiant pronounces them married, and everyone applauds, and Nikolai watches his daughter kiss her husband and thinks about the mathematics of grace. How one good thing can emerge from a life of bad choices. How redemption is not about erasing the past, but about what you build in spite of it. At the reception, David's father finds him near the bar. Robert Park, banker, skeptic man who tried to stop this wedding. Mr. Volkov, Robert says, and the use of his real name is deliberate. I owe you an apology for trying to stop this, for underestimating your daughter, for not seeing that she is exactly who my son needs. You were protecting David, I understand that. But I was wrong. Maya is remarkable, and I was wrong about you too. You are not the man I thought you were. I am exactly the man you thought I was. I just spent 10 years trying to become someone different. There is a distinction. They shake hands, and it is not forgiveness, but it is acknowledgement. Later, Maya finds Nikolai sitting alone at a table near the edge of the garden where the lights fade into darkness. She sits beside him, still in her wedding dress, makeup slightly smudged. "Thank you for walking me down the aisle," she says. "Thank you for letting me." "Dad, I need to tell you something. When the baby comes, when your granddaughter is born, I want her to know who you are, not who you were, who you are now. I want her to know her grandfather. I want her to understand that people can change. That mistakes do not define us forever. That redemption is real." "Granddaughter," Maya keeps saying granddaughter. "You know it is a girl." "Not officially, but I know, I can feel it. And Dad, I want to name her Elena, after Mom. Is that okay?" Nikolai cannot speak. Gratitude and grief and love are tangled too tightly in his throat. "I will take that as a yes." Maya leans her head on his shoulder. "I know you think you do not deserve to be happy. I know you carry guilt for things that happened before I was born. But Dad, you have paid. You have spent 10 years building a different life. You have earned the right to let yourself feel joy. So please, tonight, let yourself be happy. For me, for baby Alina." He nods, because words are impossible. They sit together in the fading light, father and daughter, two people bound by blood and history and the complicated mathematics of survival. The reception continues around them, music and laughter and the celebration of two people choosing each other. And for the first time in 10 years, Nikolai allows himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, he has earned a place in this moment. The night ends late. Guests depart. Maya and David leave for their honeymoon. Nikolai drives home alone through darkness that no longer feels threatening. The house is empty, but it does not feel lonely. He makes tea, sits at his kitchen table, looks at the calendar where Maya's wedding date is circled in red. Tomorrow he will return to work, will frame buildings and pour concrete and live the ordinary life of an ordinary man. But tonight, he allows himself to remember. Elena, young and laughing, holding Maya for the first time. "We made something good, Nick." They did. 6 months after the wedding, on a cold December morning, Elena Rose Park is born. 6 pounds, 7 ounces. Perfect. Nikolai holds her for the first time in a hospital room that smells like antiseptic and new beginnings, and he looks down at this tiny person who carries his blood but none of his history. Maya places the baby in his arms. "Your granddaughter, Dad, your fresh start." And Nikolai understands for the first time what redemption actually means. It does not mean erasing the past. It does not mean forgiveness erases consequence. It means building something good enough, true enough, that the scales begin to balance. One granddaughter does not erase the people he hurt, but she is proof that the chain of violence can be broken. That heritage is not destiny. That a man can be defined by what he builds after he stops destroying. 2 years later, Nikolai is 60. He still wakes some mornings at 3:47. Still checks cameras that Sarah Torres disconnected 18 months ago. Still carries weight from choices made 30 years ago. But he also coaches Little League for kids in his neighborhood. Takes Elena to the park on weekends. Teaches her how to swing and catch and believe in her own strength. He tells her stories about her grandmother, careful stories that emphasize love and courage. On Elena's 2nd birthday, Maya gives Nikolai a photograph. It is from the wedding, him walking her down the aisle. His face is serious, but his eyes are soft, looking at his daughter with unmistakable love. "I want you to have this," Maya says. "So when the past feels heavy, you can look at this and remember that you built something beautiful, that you are more than what you were." Nikolai puts the photograph on his refrigerator, where it joins Elena's finger paintings and Maya's ultrasound from her 2nd pregnancy, and all the ordinary evidence of an extraordinary gift. Some debts can never be repaid. Some sins do not wash clean no matter how many years you spend trying. But Nikolai has learned that redemption is not about achieving purity. It is about direction. The choices you make each morning when you wake and decide again to be better than you were. He faces forward. He chooses better. And that, finally, is enough. The witness stands. The testimony continues. The life, hard-won and honestly built, goes on. This is what it means to be redeemed. Not forgiven, not absolved, but changed. Genuinely, permanently. At great cost and with no guarantee except that tomorrow he will wake and choose again. The story ends not with closure, but with continuation. With a grandfather teaching his granddaughter to be brave. With a father watching his daughter build a life entirely her own. With a former criminal who became a carpenter, building things that will last longer than the empire he once served. The past does not disappear, but it becomes smaller, and the future, uncertain and fragile, becomes everything. Nikolai Petrov, witness to his own transformation, wakes each morning and chooses hope. Some mornings are easier than others. All of them matter.